You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 46 of Teach Better Talk. I am Ray Hewart, and as always, I'm with the clever Jeff Gargas.
Clever. That was clever, I think.
Well, it's very clever. You know, I've been asking people how to describe you, and they've been tweeting at me and Instagram messaging me, and so we went with clever today.
I like it. I'm all right with it.
Well, we have so much in store for this episode, which I think if you've been listening to Teach Better Talk, you probably already know that, but we have an incredible educator that we'll be talking to. But before we get to any of that fun, Jeff, now that you've heard clever as your description, how's your day going?
My day's just going amazing, Ray. I'm having a fantastic day. I actually love Mondays. A lot of people don't. I love Mondays because it's when I get back to work and get into things again in the start of the week. So I'm super excited about that. And I love it also because we get to do this on Monday evenings. We get to record podcast episodes with amazing educators and hear stories and share stories and laugh and goof around and hopefully provide a lot of value for those that are listening. So I'm super excited and really excited to talk to our guest today. We've got Dr. Monica Burns on with us, and you may know her from her just resource filled is the best way I can describe it. Website classtechtips.com. She's got all kinds of awesome stuff over there. You may also know her from one of her many books. One of the big ones that you most likely have heard of is Task Before Apps. Monica's an educator. She's an author. She speaks all over the place. She consults all over the place. We're going to dive into a whole lot of that tonight and talk about that and hear her stories and everything from her journey. So first and foremost, Monica, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule and chatting with us and hanging out. How are you feeling right now?
Great. Thank you. Really excited to be here with you all to talk and chat today.
Well, Monica, I was so excited when I saw that you were on our calendar to record with because I have been following you for a long time. And I really love being able to kind of talk with you through this podcast and learn more about you. But, and Jeff gave you a great introduction, not to knock Jeff or anything, but there's no way you can list all of that when people ask you what you do. So when you are just describing yourself normally, how do you even start?
So I usually start off with saying that I am a former New York City public school teacher. I taught in the classroom for a number of years, and my last two were one-to-one iPad, which is really what led me into the work that I do today. Over the past several years, I've been out of the classroom, working in lots of other people's classrooms, helping make sure that ed tech is integrated in a way that's really thoughtful and strategic. And I've had the chance to work with lots of students, of course, but also educators in all different parts of the world. So that's usually kind of where I start when talking a little bit about my story.
So I want to talk real quick. Let's talk about ed tech for a second, just because, you brought it up. So obviously you're one of the go-to for ed tech. So is there anything right now, what's a piece of ed tech that's like shining right now in your eyes? What's that piece that you're like, oh, this is going to be awesome, or this already is awesome? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I've been really excited about some of the ways that we can access really strong virtual reality content kind of without a headset is usually how I frame it for folks. Because, there's a lot going on when it looks at kind of fancy things or gimmicky things. And I'm always a sucker on the expo floor at a conference to go down and see what is grabbing everyone's attention, right? And I can't help but run over where there's a crowd, right? But what I'm really excited about is how content that seemed like it was really expensive, really a far reach in the past, is now becoming a lot more accessible for folks, whether you're pulling up 360 video on a YouTube channel, being able to look in all different directions and hear narration, kind of choose your own adventure as you're walking through a Google Maps with a 360 view. There's just a lot more that can happen now for someone who might have felt like that was a far off reach in terms of the kind of technology they could integrate into an everyday lesson.
So that's something that you're seeing a lot of when you're traveling around the school, because we get to work with a lot of districts as well, and it's amazing that how the difference, the contrast between one district to another on the level of technology they have. And we have a couple of schools that we work with that have almost zero tech, where the teachers just basically have carts that they get on Tuesdays. And then we have others that, have one-to-one, or, and just have like every tool and toy you can think of. Are you seeing are you seeing a lot of ones where you're having to work with a school that maybe is working with a lower budget and can't do some of the more AR, VR type stuff?
Yeah, there's definitely a wide range in terms of access to the actual resources, right? So there's folks who are running in on Monday morning and signing out that Chromebook cart so they can get it period 7 every Thursday, right, for the month. And then there's other folks who have everything they need for everyone at every moment when it comes to being able to hold a certain device in their hands. So it's definitely something that I see and notice. But what I've been a lot more kind of thoughtful about in my conversations with folks is saying, okay, yeah, you've got this, but like what's actually happening with it? Because it's one thing if you have a Chromebook for everyone and we're typing up the essays that you used to write very carefully beforehand, right? That's not really something that gets me super excited in terms of technology integration. Is there some value there in terms of ease and efficiency? Absolutely, right? You could make an argument in certain directions, but even when students are kind of sharing a screen, right, or maybe don't have devices all the time or in a blended learning environment where they're going through stations, they can have really powerful experiences, right, if that technology is being leveraged in a way that's really strategic. So access is a huge part of it. But I know for folks when it becomes, a barrier, sometimes it's just the look of a barrier. When someone else who has lots of access might not necessarily have everything they need in their tool belt to make the most of that.
I love it. I know Ray's smiling ear to ear right now because we're talking about purpose, and when you have if you have a crappy lesson, I can't remember who. I think it was Dave Burgess that said this, that if you have a crappy lesson and you add technology, all you really have is a crappy lesson with technology. And that's the thing. I love that. So I love that you took it that direction, talking about the purpose there. So,
well, and I was going to jump in, Jeff, but I totally didn't want to interrupt her because that's my favorite topic, that if you're doing something just to say that you're doing it and not doing it with that purpose, that umbrella of the why and really making an impact. Gosh, we quote Tiffany Ott on this all the time.
Yeah, we do. And I'm going to reflect back to one of our very first episodes with Thomas C. Murray and his awesome story about talking about when they got Palm Pilots. Now, that's obviously early Stone Age, quote unquote, tech, right? And they got the Palm Pilots, and his principal watched him, and he's like 30 minutes of the kids just basically reading or whatever on Palm Pilots. And he couldn't understand when his principal asked, well, but what learning happened? He's like, what do you mean? Like, didn't you see them? They were all on Palm Pilots. And that was such a moment of, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything if it's not utilizing it. So that's such an important piece. So I love it. Let's talk a little bit about your journey and all the things that you've done and being in the classroom, and now working in other people's classroom and supporting and going from, I know you talked at times about how, your career started with chalkboards, right? Now you're into ed tech and everything. So a lot of stuff, you've seen a lot in there. I want to talk about a time that you failed, a time that you felt like you failed or you messed up. Can you kind of take us there, share the story with us, tell us what happened, why was it a failure, and then what'd you learn from it, and what'd you take away from that experience?
So one thing that really stands out for me as, a failure or opportunity for growth, if you will, early on in that journey, I always talk about this, magical delivery of iPads. It's kind of the joke I make when I keynote or present around the topic of TASF apps, right? This magical delivery of iPads came and it was going to change everything because, we could take them out of the boxes and run with them, right? But what I found, right away was this kind of draw to the app store to find an app for fill in the blank, right? Find an app for fractions, find an app for this topic or that topic. And it was really something where I had to pull myself out of that mindset. And that's really where that task before apps kind of idea or gut check kind of came from or stemmed from a few years later, was this idea that I was so caught up on finding an app for fill in the blank that really became my driving factor when thinking about technology integration right early on, right? That excitement is there, that energy is there. And now is this opportunity to find apps for all of these things that I felt there was going to be this magic app for. And so what that really happened for me as a learning experience was to say, what's really happening here, right? If there's an app for math facts, is this helping anyone do anything more than practice their flashcards a little bit faster, right? Is this doing anything for me in terms of collecting information that I can act on? Maybe, maybe not, right? And so kind of building off of that. And those are the same conversations I have with folks now. It's, what is your why behind that question? Because there's something there when you say, is there an app for this? What are you really trying to get at there? And so that's something where my kind of first few months of thinking about how to best use these devices when they arrived really early on, when people were starting to go one-to-one with that particular type of tablet, was really focused on searching for resources that I thought were going to address an issue when I wasn't really thinking about the right question to ask when vetting different things or looking for different things. And that's such a huge part of my journey and growth early on, was to say, what is the real question, right? What is it that I'm really looking to accomplish here? Because there isn't an app for this topic.
I love that outlook on this. I think that so often than not, the teachers are looking for, the next engagement piece. They're looking for, one isolated instance. And if we can start looking at our units, at our students learning in a larger scale, then we really can find that purpose and ensure that our teachers and our students are getting exactly what they need to find success. So, I couldn't agree more. This is why I love being connected with you on social media, because your mindset on how you are continuously changing education and impacting teachers is so up my alley, Monica. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. And, it really comes down to the questions that I get all the time, which all come from a place of wanting to support students, right? Wanting to solve problems, wanting to find the very best thing to help, that specific child or those group of students. And I really think it is about reframing our questions, coming back to that core piece with all of this, because all of our intentions are really great, right? So we want to make sure we're leveraging that and just pointing it in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that gets me so excited about education, that we can not just have these conversations, but then hopefully our listeners, you can actually take that insight and apply it today when you walk in your classroom, tomorrow when you walk in your classroom, really not just being reflective, but intentionally taking time to think through these things day in, day out in our classrooms, big or small, wherever you are, is so thrilling. So I want to throw that same kind of question at you. What else is getting you excited about everything going on in education? What's kind of fueling your fire?
So I've been really pumped about the way that people are thinking about creativity apps, specifically ones that are open-ended and kind of fall into that choose your own adventure category. I think it's a really wonderful opportunity to take the best practices, right, that are already happening in classrooms, the excitement that educators have for a particular content area or activities that they've done in the past and seen success with, but then also make sure they're meeting the needs, of a variety of students. So I've done some work with the folks at Adobe Spark. I have a book that came out with EdTech team last year with creativity activities specifically with it. And I came across those tools because they were, free, which is always happy for me when I'm sharing things with people in kind of mixed device or mixed group settings where people come from all over and don't necessarily have that kind of budget to go any further or deeper with different tools. But I really wanted to show something that was going to be open-ended. So someone could use a tool not to make a movie, but to help students explore persuasive hooks by creating a public service announcement, using their voice to connect with an audience, right? And kind of go through and check these other boxes of goals that we have for students that we can do so much more easily now with easy access to creativity tools. So this idea of empowering students to make a product that they can share with someone else that shows off their learning, that helps teachers understand if there's still misconceptions or gaps or if mastery has taken place, is something that really gets me excited.
Oh, I love that. And Jeff, we do training on this all the time where you're challenging teachers to not just allow your student to prove mastery, but actually use whatever they're developing, whatever they're creating to prove mastery, and then push that out to our community to continue, educating the world around them because they've, shown an expertise in something, they've mastered a concept. So I think that's so cool.
Hey, what's up? It's Jeff. Don't worry, we're going to get right back to the episode, but I really want to check out and make sure that you are connected with us on social media. Ray and I and the entire Teach Better team want to connect with you. We want to hear your stories. We want to be a part of your journey. We want to be there to support you in any way we can, and we want to learn and grow with you. So please connect with us. Everything we have is at Teach Better Team. And then, of course, make sure you connect with me at Jeff Gargas and Ray at Ray Hewart. Let's get back to the episode.
I have to know, though, you're working with teachers all over the country. You're keynoting, it seems like, everywhere this year. You're speaking everywhere. I've only been fortunate enough to hear you speak a few times, but I just know that you're continuously sharing your insight, which I hope that teachers, through listening to this podcast and also they connect with you after, continue to gain. But when you're thinking about those new teachers, the teachers that are either new to a building or they're new to the profession, or maybe they found this new passion for growth, right? They're really trying to develop. What type of advice would you give those teachers to ensure that they are staying on this, progressive and innovative track that education is really transforming?
Well, new teachers who are just getting started, are a group that I get to work with every once in a while. I'll actually be working with some pre-service teachers in Nebraska later this week. But probably the best piece of advice I would give has, nothing to do with technology. And it came from my mom, who is now retired, but was a high school history teacher. And it was to kind of keep your door open, right? So make sure that you are listening, that that you let people know that they can come in, right, and spend time with you, that you ask questions, that you're just really open, as opposed to, right, having that kind of silo vision of what's going on in my room as it's isolated kind of experience. And I found that idea of kind of keeping my door open really helps someone who was walking by, maybe peek in and feel comfortable, know that I was open to taking that suggestion or to saying yes to that invitation to make sure I came to something that was going on at a different part of the day. So something as simple as that, I think when you're a new teacher, and I know I felt this way as a new teacher, we're trying something out. We're not as confident with classroom management. We're afraid someone's going to see something going wrong. And keeping that door open made a big difference for me in terms of, having a wonderful community of educators around me who knew that I was up for a conversation.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that. That's a great piece of advice, and building those relationships and building that support base and connecting with people by keeping your door open. I want to talk for a second, Monica. I want to give you a chance to tell us about some of the awesome stuff you got going on. I know you have a lot of events coming up and a lot of things that you got going on. Do you want to talk about something like that? Do you want to tell us about some of the things that you got going on right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been a great start to 2019. I was a featured speaker again at FETC earlier this year, but now I'm headed out to some smaller regional events for the spring. It's been really fun to connect with folks in the literacy and ed tech world. So I'll be at the Nebraska State Reading Conference this month, then doing some work in Maryland at their literacy conference, as well as a librarian conference in South Carolina. So it's been really neat to kind of be on that side of things the past year or so, kind of brought in as, maybe a little bit of a token tech person to make some literacy connections. I always am happily acknowledge that piece, but it's been exciting to see that in all different pockets, folks want to talk about how to leverage technology to take what they're doing to the next level, or at least to energize what they've always done to make sure it's really relevant for kids. So it's been really fun stepping out of the kind of ed tech conference world, if you will, to being on the outside of a different kind of conference to share some ways to use digital tools. So that's going to be the focus of the spring. And then June and, the end of the year is always nice and busy leading up to ISTE with a few keynotes in different parts of the country to kind of kick off digital learning days that are happening at smaller events. But yeah, really looking forward to another whirlwind ISTE this time in Philly with a pretty full schedule.
Awesome. Wow, that sounds like your 2019 is going to fly right by.
I know.
That's okay because it's for a reason. But so can you tell us a little bit? We're going to keep diving in. So some of the awesome stuff you have. And we don't have the time to go through all of them, but I definitely want you. Can you give us like the sort of 1,000-foot view, the 30-second overview? Excuse me, a frog in my throat. Of tasks before apps, and what if I don't have that book and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about it, what can I expect from it?
Sure. It was so fun to partner with ASCD, my publisher, for Tasks Before Apps, which came out at the end of last year. And it's really about designing rigorous learning in a tech-friendly classroom. So one where we're thinking about being purposeful with the use of digital tools. So the book sets you up with kind of the background, research behind the importance, right, of thoughtful task design, and then goes into three core areas, which is looking at creation in the classroom. So making products with digital tools that leverage features like audio and video, imagery, right, different types of media. Then it looks at collaboration, so different models that are specific for using digital tools, whether it's remote collaboration like a Google Doc or shared screen with the person sitting next to you. And then it finishes off looking at curiosity in the classroom. So how we can really make sure that we're connecting kids with relevant and engaging audiences, that we're listening to them to see what it is that they want to learn about, but then also knowing that we all don't know what we don't know. So we want to spark curiosity in different ways too. And then the very end of the book kind of gives everyone tips for putting things into action. So what it looks like to get started, how to choose different tools, how to find people to support your work. And ASCD's been so wonderful to work with. They have a study guide that's online. There's been there's a district I keynoted at last year that bought one for everyone in their district. So we've been able to give them some extra supporting resources. And last summer and this summer, I'll be doing another Flipgrid summer book club, which was really wonderful to have people kind of go in at their own time over the summer, record a quick video, see what other people were thinking, but most importantly, right, put some of the big ideas into action. Since I know not everyone has kind of a PLC or book club at their school, it was a great way to connect with some folks who were just passionate about this topic.
That's really cool. So I gotta ask you, because you've done what, 5 books now?
Yeah.
So 5 different books. So we actually just turned in our book. So we wrote it as a team, the four of us, Ray and myself, and then Chad Ostrowski and Tiffany Ott, and we're super excited. We get to work with the amazing crew over at Dave Burgess. And it was awesome. It was fun, but man, it was hard. So you've done 5. I'm always curious to know, is it something to writing the book, putting it all together? Is that something that came really easy to you, or was it more of a struggle? How did that process go for you?
Well, first off, congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment to have reached that part of the journey. So super excited to see what you all have together as well. But yeah, it's definitely a process. It's a lot. And I would be not truthful with you right now if I said that it doesn't, that I'm happy I don't have anything hanging over my head right now, which I'm sure is the way that you felt before you, press send on that. So I'm not in the midst, if you will, of another manuscript right now, which feels really nice to have that little bit of brain
It sure
space.
does.
But I definitely didn't think, when I went to school to become an elementary school teacher very happily, and I did not think that my journey would take, the turn that it has, although it's been fantastic. But this idea of being a writer, right, being a blogger, producing a lot of words every week, right, as a blogger, let alone with the manuscripts, has definitely been something that was not kind of in my comfort zone or something that I was used to doing all the time, right, before some of these opportunities presented themselves. So for me, I've a pretty disciplined writer. I'm pretty good at carving out time to kind of hit certain things, certain marks, if you will. But I'm a big believer in the writing process, which is the same thing we talk about with kids, and the same thing I taught for many years as a teacher of writing, as well as all different content areas. Where going through that process, right, hitting certain marks, outlining, being really open to feedback, all of that is really helpful for me in terms of pacing myself and going through the process. And it's been interesting to see, right, the development of a book like Tasks Before Apps, which is much more content rich, right, has plenty of, graphic organizer style kind of planning things for teachers to take notes and think about, but then doing something like 40 ways to inject creativity in the classroom with Adobe Spark, which is more activities and lessons to put into action. It's been neat seeing what it looks like to kind of write with different structures in mind too. So that's been kind of cool from behind the scenes to think about what the process looks like when the product is going to be a little bit different.
I'm glad you said it was a process and a challenge and stuff, because otherwise we were just going to cut your episode altogether. No, it was a fun process, right, Ray? I mean, it was difficult, it was tough, especially with 4 voices, but it was a lot of fun. It was really cool, so we're super excited about that. So
it was very, very fun. Sharing all those stories, putting them all together. I just can't believe it until I have it in my hand. So
yeah, that's true.
I cannot wait to see the book. That's all I care about.
All right, so now, Monica, we're going to really get you out of your comfort zone. So we're going to do the next 6 questions, but you only have 15 seconds or less to answer.
Okay.
Each one. All right, you ready to go?
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, what is one, and I'm going to hold you to 1 because this is probably a tough one for you, but one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
Google Drive. Without a doubt.
What's one book you're reading right now?
I'm reading Building a Story Brand right now.
And who's that by?
It's by Donald Miller, I believe is the author.
Nice. And who do we need to follow on Twitter today?
I'm going to give you a hashtag.
Okay.
Everyone can create is the hashtag.
Hashtag
It's been a lot of
create.
ADEs, Apple Distinguished Educators on there sharing fun things.
Love it. What's the best YouTube channel or website, blog, resource place for educators?
Ooh, one of my favorite YouTube channels to recommend is Ted Ed's YouTube channel. I love explainer videos, and it's full of them.
And what's one daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into?
Simplify. Paring things down, just going in and zeroing in on that one thing or 2 things you're really prioritizing.
Love it. And what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
As a teacher, the best piece of advice was to eat lunch with everyone. That's where you really learn things. You figure out what people are excited about. So sit down, eat lunch, don't work through lunch, have conversations.
I think she did all right,
Monica,
Ray.
Yeah, you did awesome answering those questions. That might be the most high anxiety part of this show that in case you didn't know this already, Jeff's sitting in his basement with his timer out, making sure that everything is under the time frame. So you did awesome.
Okay, good. I tried with my talking fast,
Yeah, you're good. She's good.
Too.
Well, Monica, I might have one of the most important questions for us today because I want to make sure that everybody listening not only could continue their learning from you, but just keep connecting with you. So would you mind sharing kind of your Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want people to know, how they can get in contact with you, all the books, all the juicy details. That way they can make sure this conversation doesn't end here.
Absolutely. So Class Tech Tips is my handle on all platforms, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Pinterest. I've been doing a lot more in Instagram stories, so kind of behind the scenes look with tips and travel. So at Class Tech Tips on Instagram is a good place to start. And then my website is classtechtips.com. So if you go to classtechtips.com/blog, you'll find the blog, /books, you'll find the books, /sign up. I have a whole bunch of freebies, and that's how you get my newsletter too. So that's the place to find me. And I've been doing a lot more with video updates on my YouTube channel, even on LinkedIn. So Class Tech Tips across the board.
Love it. And you can find all the links, resources, everything we talked about today with Monica over at teachbetter.com, including those really important links to connect with her over to the website so you can find out all those different things that she mentioned and keep the conversation going. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Monica, super awesome episode. Really appreciate you coming on and take some time and hanging out with us and sharing all your insight and your stories and everything. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you all so much for having me.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.